I think we got Ben Hart with us online, a couple other people. This is Monday, 18th of December. It's 12:46. Sorry for the little delay. This is the weekly meeting of the Weber County Board of Commissioners work meeting. I'm Commissioner Gage Spur. I'll be conducting with me Commissioner Sharon Bolos and Commissioner Jim Harvey. We're going to start this meeting this morning with an action or discussion on the minutes for our meeting held on December 11th, 2023.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye. Aye,
Aye.
motion carries. Minutes are approved. 12:30 discussion regarding the inland port. Stephanie Russell, John Wilkinson, Chris Crockett, Scott Park, John Bond, Stephanie Ebert, Brandon Quinney. And we got the famous John Bond. How come you're not on here? Wow.
His name. Didn't you? Yeah, you did.
Did I say
You said his
him?
name.
Okay.
You get
And-
two.
Chris Roybal wasn't on here. All right, Steph, go ahead and lead off.
Sure. Import is here today to do a quick presentation for you regarding the expansion of the West Weaver project area that we had passed by resolution a while back. We have had the opportunity to run this plan through the Economic Development Finance Committee to talk about what that expansion would look like and what it would mean for the county. So I'm going to turn the time over to Scott Wolford with Inland Port, and he can give you the details on what they're proposing and kind of a timeline and where this project area would like to land in the next couple months.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Commissioner. Scott Wolford, Vice President of Business Development with the Utah Inland Port Authority. With me, I have our brand spanking new Associate Vice President, Stephanie Pack. Who
Oh, welcome.
just hired to be the presence in Northern Utah. Hopefully this is one of the project areas that she'll be your one throat to choke, as it were. Please don't do that literally. It's just a metaphor. Commission, this is an exciting prospect for the Port Authority. In the time since we've spoken with the initial resolution, there's been significant increase in your county, interest in your county with other property owners wanting to be part of this. We're up to 9 pretty significant property owners who've requested to be included. We've had meetings with them. We've met with the administrative of the staff of the county and talked about a long-term governance solution, perhaps a steering or advisory committee to recommend how the differential is allocated, spent, pledged, and to kind of make sure that there's concurrence between the Port Authority itself and obviously the permitting land use authority in Weber County. We've come today to ask to amend the resolution to take the included parcels off. And we would like to negotiate the boundaries of the project area again with the administrative staff of the county under the direction of the commission for presentation the second week in January to our board, and then to be created in March. In that interim, we would make sure the commission is comfortable with the boundaries as they're proposed and which properties are and are not included. There is I'm going to say the word significant, but I don't think that does justice. But the term gargantuan seems hyperbolic at this point. There is a lift in infrastructure needs in West Weber County and certainly challenges that you're well aware of with wetland mitigation and I would say avoidance to anything detrimental to those wetlands. The benefits of the hundreds of millions of dollars of tax differential that will be generated and pledged into this area will benefit all of these property owners. And our board feels very strongly that without the participation of those who will benefit, it's going to put a challenge to meet those infrastructure needs. So again, our ask today is to amend your resolution to remove the parcel IDs, and those boundaries would be negotiated between the county and the Port Authority, making sure you're comfortable with them before we create it. And with that, we'll be happy to answer any questions.
Questions? Commissioner Harvey?
You want to remove the property ID numbers?
From your resolution.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah, okay.
It just takes one step away out of amending, and anything changed after we create. We're right now with Spanish Fork City, they're amending their boundaries. They pass a resolution, ask us to amend. We say, is this what you want? Yes, it is. And then we create. So anything.
I got that. I'm with you.
Stephanie, you have anything on it?
The Economic Development Finance Committee is in favor of amending the boundaries and expanding this area so that we can, better secure that infrastructure that we need, as well as, satisfy the requests of the property owners that desire to be in the port. Does anyone from the ED Finance Committee want to weigh in on this at all?
I can weigh in a little bit.
Okay.
As far as the administrative burden goes to oversee the financing of that area, if we were to take an alternative approach, for instance, CRAs, creating a community reinvestment project area, it would create a demand on staff that we may have to hire more people for. Who knows how big of a lift this would be for staff. So just from an administrative standpoint, having another agency oversee property tax generation and the increment, we would call it increment, you call it differential.
Yes, sir.
That's generated out there would take that burden off of county employees and put it on someone else. So I imagine the county would still be involved as far as if your community proposed goes.
We see
and not have that
ourselves,
responsibility.
we see ourselves as your administrative agent, doing what you want, how you want the differential pledged. So we're an asset, not in control.
Okay,
How would that be? Oh, sorry, Commissioner.
yeah, I've got a couple questions.
Shoot.
So we're fairly familiar with this site. And I'm gonna ask Chris to weigh on this. So you've got some existing businesses under this proposal.
Mhm.
And I'm assuming since you call it differential, that doesn't hurt us on our existing tax base,
No, sir.
only if you can increase any opportunities they have for expansion.
Correct.
Is that how you view it or not?
Yes, sir. 100%.
Okay. Second question is, I'm assuming you've talked to the major landowner that appears that you've just followed their footprint,
Yes, sir.
okay?
Mhm.
All right. And I'm just wondering, some of this, we need to, does this conform, you go up to 6,700 west here. Which is not currently now zoned for, at least for industrial. So is your plan working to go industrial to 67? Because I think what we talked about before is 67 and some of that area to the west is designated as family. We want single family residents,
Yeah, that's good.
not industrial.
It's all definitely your call as the land use authority. We don't take any of those authorities. You can use differential to pledge towards affordable housing. And so we think the inclusion of that residential component to be able to use a housing authority or whatever mechanism you want to
Okay.
pledge towards affordable housing. It's not a requirement. You don't have to commit to it today. We can kind of decide as we go if you want to pledge to help that area. And that's why that was included.
Okay, so I've asked Stephanie this, so we've been through this one time.
Mhm.
Your board rejected it.
Rejected strong, maybe made a counter proposal. How's that, sir?
Well, they didn't approve our resolution. So if we go through this, what's the chances that your board will approve this? Because I don't want to go through this again.
I agree. We've talked to all of them offline. Director Hart, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, I'll take that one. Commissioner, it's a very fair question. We did take this one offline. I'll just go where Scott was going. We did take this one offline. We were able to chat with our every one of our board members. There was 100% not only approval and desire, but there was also the belief that this absolutely was the right way to go. So they have all been willing to commit that they will 100% support this, and I'm able at their authorization to make that known as well.
Okay? All right, so, but we won't know till that vote's taken on what day?
It'll be probably the second week or third week of March, maybe into April. They haven't set up a solid day. We'll present it, and that will be done here. We will have our board meeting here in Weber County. We'll present it on, tell me boss, January 9th.
January 10th, and then I think it's March 25th. We've already got our date set just out of it was a good question. It wasn't asked, but just to speak to it, with the legislative session so heavy and with so many of our board members tied to the legislature, we're just not going to have a meeting in February. Commissioners, you know how heavy that can be. So
Yeah, that makes perfectly good sense. So you think you've got support of your board then?
Yes, and I will say, having talked with them directly, I know that support's there. Yes.
Okay, Chris, what's your take on this? Since Chris is our Northern Utah economic.
Well, I
Director.
think, my recommendation to the commissioners, and it was the same when we had the work session, is that, I feel strongly that the Weaver County Commission team, gets to, form what I would call some kind of an advisory due diligence committee, whatever you want to call it. It's made up of whoever you want on it. It could be the three commissioners plus my group or whoever you recommend, that for each project that comes to the approved site, that committee, after the due diligence is performed, is making a recommendation to the port board as to how you would like to see the increment allocated. In other words, you guys have a max of 75-25 over what?
25 years.
25 years. You might recommend on a certain project, maybe you recommend the max, maybe you recommend 50% of that increment over 10 years, depending on where the project is in the project area and what kind of infrastructure they need. So I like the idea of having the commission being able to make that recommendation on every project to the port board before they vote on how it's allocated. So I think if you do that, it gives the commission, I think, the local control expertise and due diligence that you want. And then I think on the port side, what you get is a little more efficiency with not having to go through the school districts and the other taxing entities. And I think you probably end up with a little bit more with the 25% because you're not having to do 10% to the affordable housing group. So the 75-25 split, that 25 is actually a bigger share to the local districts and the county, I think, on a project by project basis. But Gage, I would recommend that they put that in the resolution, that Weaver County is suggesting a due diligence advisory committee that will recommend on a project by project basis. So that gives you the local control. My guess is, Scott and Ben, even though the port has the final say on the vote, I think as long as the Weaver County due diligence is thoughtful, my guess is they would probably take, whatever recommendations are coming from the county, which allows you the local control that you want.
Which is how we've always done it, and that's, we don't
Exactly. You don't want to lose that.
we don't wanna lose that control, because again, there's no one that's better understands this piece of dirt than Chris Roybal. And so that group would need to have input along with the commissioners on a project by project basis. There may be some that we could say, look, 10 years is all you get.
Sure.
So, but I don't want the Port Authority to say everybody gets 25 years,
Right.
when we don't feel as a county that that's necessary.
We'll commit to working with that committee.
So-
I'm thrilled to work with that committee. I would.
Well, whatever committee that is.
Sure.
Yeah.
I would add that we're anticipating getting the authority to trigger parcel by parcel. And so that committee recommending when the differential starts to trigger post-construction.
So you can trigger the beginning of the 25 years parcel by parcel,
Not yet, but we have
but
had,
you're working on that,
correct.
that's actually beneficial too.
Right.
That's how we-
Over
that's how we
the
use it.
traditional CRA that would trigger the whole
Yeah.
area,
Which we don't do.
and
No,
then
we don't want to do that.
you don't want that. So if you have that flexibility, that's even better.
And then that committee here's what we want in that parcel, here's
Yeah.
what we want to recruit, here's what we
Yeah.
want to incentivize. We can, I don't want to say we would build a plan for every parcel. We should build a plan for every parcel,
Okay.
knowing what we want there and how we want to recruit it.
Well, on this particular piece, I think that's the only thing that really makes sense.
Yeah.
Yes, sir,
Yeah,
I agree.
for
Because a
sure.
lot of us lodge tax ID numbers, as you understand,
Yes, sir.
so. And remind me again what, the Port Authority takes as far as their service fee,
Up to 5%.
up to 5%.
Yes, sir.
So that's negotiable as well.
There's certainly a danger in the public sector of obscene amounts of money coming into a public entity. And when we project the economic potential here, 5% years 23 through 25 is embarrassing.
Right.
It'll be pretty thin, years 1 through 3, 4, 5. We'll
Right.
figure it out.
Well, then you gotta talk to that guy sitting next to you, because he controls, he's pretty tight.
I anticipate in some of the other areas, and certainly it's a discussion that we should have here, is that I think that 5% probably the administrative burden will be shared, and there are things that we can fund through that 5% that are maybe staff. or
Is that piece, voted on annually, or how does that work in terms of how the admin piece? I mean, I know you can go up to 5, but how does that work with the county sort of year 1, year 5, year 10-year, 20,
We, at this point, we haven't canonized.
how that's gonna work.
Correct.
So there's some,
Well, I think it's important, whether it's in the resolution or some type of MOU,
Mhm.
we would want some of that 5%. I mean, we've already got the experts we're paying for that's also receiving. That note needs to go to Northern Utah for the people that actually have boots on the ground.
Sure.
I mean,
And-
we've got the people in place that understand that. And number one, I don't wanna have somebody come in and give misinformation. We've got people in place that knows exactly what we're talking about there.
Yeah.
And to pay somebody else to maybe give misinformation, that's a part I struggle with.
Yes, sir.
Hey,
Boss?
Commissioner, you have our commitment. And if we need to even go so far as to saying not only project by project with the review committee, but also on an annual basis prior to our board taking action on the budget, just to make sure we're in a place we're all comfortable with, we're fine with that. You're in practice, and the way that we view this is we're going to be working hand in glove with Chris. I mean, if our organization ends up helping to fund him, if it helps to fund other administrative parts of the county, and I have no problem saying that we will absolutely do that. And in that regard, we're absolutely agreeing to that, willing to agree to that upfront in the resolution as well. So I would say you're hearing it from us. We will come back not just on a project by project basis, but even on an annual basis as is needed to make sure that we get this budget right. And to the commissioners, I would say not a cent is going to leave your county, whether it's going to help our group with administration, whether that's going to help Chris, whether that's going to help the county. Not a cent of this is going to be leaving the county. All of this has to be reinvested back into the community. So even our portion, anything we get will still be reinvested.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, Ben. That's exact. I looked at the money that we spent, both the state and the county have put into Northern Utah Economic Alliance over the past 4 years. And there's no sense in duplicating that or losing that historical knowledge on it. Again, that benefits you, that benefits the port, because we know exactly what type of businesses will fit. We understand the infrastructure out there. So there's a lot of information that benefits the Port Authority to take advantage of.
That's perfect. Yeah, we're good with that.
Commissioner, we're gonna leave this with you. This is a budget projection. It's very conservative. Our goal is to outperform this at least twofold. But you're about 190,000 in base year taxable revenues right now.
Right.
We'll turn that into 481 million additional dollars for the county, and that's staying right here.
Yeah. Well, Chris, you have a comment?
Yes, you described it earlier as like an agency type relationship. And we talked about passing a resolution to say what the county's intent is, perhaps creating an advisory type committee. Does state statute actually allow us to put restrictions like that on? And for example, how are we going to memorialize that relationship? Is it by way of contract or is it by way of resolution? And I guess a hypothetical would be, what if this and I hope that I don't sound negative, but I have to assume worst case scenario, what if there, for example, if there's a project that the county commission, for whatever reason, I'm not saying this will happen, but just they don't want that particular project and they give a negative recommendation. What does the board then do with that? Is it just like a, goodwill, understanding, or is there an actual legal relationship that will bind both groups?
My suggestion is that we would put the steering committee or whatever we want that to look like in the plan and budget. There's not something that compels our board to specifically follow that as far as a contractual control, but a significant amount of political control. I would say the first time that our board goes willy-nilly and does something that the locals don't want, we will never create another port project area in the state of Utah. And those who haven't triggered are going to be very nervous about engaging in a partnership with the Port Authority. So I think there are controls there. There have been some councils that have thought otherwise. They like things memorialized in contract, but it's not in statute as far as saying the Port Authority board has to do exactly. But I don't want to say they've been hands off, because they haven't. But as far as what we're doing in the project areas across all 8, hopefully the 9th, it really is administrative staff taking a local first approach. How do you want this to build out? What do you want this to be done? That's the as the pattern that we followed. So again, memorializing the planning budget, there'll be a steering committee making recommendations, Port Authority board. But the board day to day after creation, they're not super involved with that aspect of it. At least they haven't been to this point.
And
Yes, so
Did Tremont put into their resolution that we could not, and look, to the question, our board will never even see it. They'll never have a chance to act on it because staff's never going to bring it to them. If the local community isn't supportive, we will never take something to our board. But I thought one of our communities, maybe it was Tremont, that ultimately said in their resolution that they wanted the final approval. We had to have a letter from the city manager and mayor, it seems like, before we could offer an incentive. You know, if we need to say in the same thing in the resolution or in our project area plan and budget, you know, the commission's got to give us a letter before we can offer an incentive. We're fine with that. We're going to be taking your lead on all these things anyway. So.
I think that covers a lot of what we're looking for, is to make sure we don't get stepped on sometime down the
And it
road.
creates continuity between commissioners as they come and go over the next
Yeah.
10 years.
Yeah, I don't want to bind future commissions into some, you know, why did they give away the, you know, the boat here?
especially in incentives, Commissioner, we would love that.
That's a good plan, Gage.
I like
So,
it.
They're certainly, we've seen with Box Elder's really killing it in recruitment right now. They're just doing a fine job. We landed Lakeshore up in Garland.
Yeah,
We've got a couple on the EDC Utah dashboard that look really good for Brigham City and the county. And everything we've been lockstep with the county and the cities. And if we want to memorialize that in the plan budget, we love that idea. Approval from the commission prior to offering an incentive, that some of them are a little sensitive. That doesn't feel like an open meeting act to me. It would need to be in a closed session.
right.
And so whatever controls you need to put on that to make sure that we're not violating a.
It's no different than how the state does their incentive
Absolutely,
program.
100%.
It's closed with the incentive committee and then it's an
Sure.
open public meeting. Once it's
Chris will
ready to
keep
be
us out of
approved.
trouble there.
So,
Thank
pretty
you so
similar.
much.
Chris, you have anything else?
That answers my question.
Ben, did you have anything else you'd like to add?
No,
Appreciate-
just thank you to the
All right.
commission for working with us. Commissioner, to your earlier point, I apologize for the back and forth on this. We feel like we're in a great place now. We feel like we're in a place to move forward again with local control really being more pronounced than what it was. So I would say we feel like this is absolutely going the right direction. We feel like this honestly is going to be one of, if not our best project areas. And that's saying a lot because I think we got the 16,000 acres around, you know, the Salt Lake City International Airport. Once this area gets on the map, this will be, I think, the future center of economic gravity for all of northern Utah. And I absolutely believe that. That's how important this area is. So we're ecstatic that potentially we have the opportunity to help out. We think this is going to be a phenomenal project area. And so we're just happy for the consideration.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, Ben. That's great. Mr. John Bond.
Could I put Sean on the hot seat for a second?
Sure.
Please do.
Why not?
It appears to be a marriage between our master plan out west and this agenda. Could I just offer Sean to make sure that that marriage fits constantly? So it's reviewed by their group and over time, there's always that coordination that the master plan fits with, you know, this,
Yeah.
all these things fit within the master plan agenda. And I don't know how you do that periodically just to ensure that there's continuity.
Stephanie and I have had this discussion already. As these projects come forward, they will be put on our special projects committee, which will have input from planning, engineering, my
Finance.
department. So
Legal.
we've got a framework for how that would work,
So you're shining over there.
apparently.
Sean's over there shining.
Shining now.
Yeah, that's good. So I think as long as we have that continuity and over time, there's always that relationship that it's a good fit.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
We meet semi-monthly with Scott Lyons there, the director for Box Elder County, and we would see the same thing with this, a regular meeting, a cadence that we're always lockstep with what you're doing.
That'd be good. I mean, if you get Chris involved and Stephanie and, you know, our group,
Yes, sir.
so everybody singing off the same sheet
Yeah, I
here.
think we put that together with our economic development finance committee and, and put, that steering committee together with Northern Utah Economic Alliance and whoever else the commission would like to see on that committee. And then additionally, as a second step, we'll add anything that comes into the project area will be put on Sean and I's special project committee. So we've got double coverage.
And we would see that committee as driving us, not tell us where you want us working.
Yeah.
And that's what we'll do.
We just need to give you guys lots of assurance that bases are being covered.
Mhm.
We gotta figure out what those bases are, and that's helpful.
Well, it has to be a true partnership, or sooner or later, then something will,
Mhm.
not work and it'll fall apart, so. Yeah, so I know Ben's been in the business, he understands it very well. And I think that, I agree, this will probably be the shining star for economic development for Port Authority in the state of Utah.
It's,
We got all the components out there just ready to pull the trigger.
it's been really hard for the last several months to look at that. Proposals, projects that are potential, then that'd be great in Weaver, that'd be great in Weaver, that'd be great in Weaver. So we're thrilled to be able to start working on this.
Okay, Commissioner Bowles, questions, comments?
Good, thank you.
You seem to be okay with this? Commissioner Harvey? I know you're kind of the tough Eddie on this.
Hard Eddie.
Oh, Hardy.
Yeah, thanks. No, we're good. The questions that I had have been answered.
Has
I
it?
just want to make sure the money goes back to Weaver and that's where we are. That's good.
Keeping it here.
All right, sounds like we'll get that resolution. But we'll have to do some work on that resolution to make sure we're bringing some of those suggestions we talked about and
Fantastic.
get to you guys. You're looking for that resolution when?
Very quickly, as quickly as you can do it.
So March,
Yeah,
April,
no.
but
It's not speed of government commissioner. We're hoping to post the plan and budget by the 29th to make our 10-day statutory.
29th of December?
Yes, sir. And if you can give me a draft, we'll put it in, but then we'll do the final by our March
Okay.
deadline.
We don't have a meeting on the,
we're not 24 hours out either.
Yeah.
We're not on the 26th.
You do what you can, Commissioner.
All right, we'll get it.
We'll take what we can get.
let me put it this way, more than likely it'll be January.
If you have,
We may have to do the signatures. That's the kind of thing that we do the signatures out and then do it.
It won't be an official resolution, but maybe we could put some kind of
A draft?
assurance or a draft or something.
if we can have a draft as a placeholder, we'll call it draft,
Okay,
and that would be just
That'd
fine.
be good.
Is that okay?
by the 29th, so we'll need to get that resolution ironed out. But again, that'll be a draft because we won't have, after
Great.
tomorrow, we don't have one until
Yeah, that's the last one.
Till the second.
2nd of
Yeah.
January.
Wonderful. That works swimmingly for us, Commissioner.
Okay, I think we can work it out.
Swimmingly.
Swimmingly.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thanks very much. Nice
Thank
to meet
you.
Thanks, Ben. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Have a-
Thank you, Commissioner.
Have a great holiday, folks.
Thank you. You too.
Ben, good seeing you, Ben.
Thank you.
You done with this?
No, I'm gonna finish it. Okay. Well, maybe not finish it, but don't.
Nice to meet you.
See you guys.
Thanks, Chris.
Karen?
See you.
Yes.
You done?
I'm done.
Sounds like what I want to make it.
Jim, do you want
Come on in, Todd. Sean stuff? What's happening? Buddy? Great to see you, Chris. You too, buddy.
Yeah, how's it going?
Oh,
Yeah.
man. All set.
Project by project. Project by
We gotta get you on. My boy bought that Surlon Ultra.
Yeah.
Let's get him to schedule.
It's got traction control.
This thing.
And it's got reverse. It's
I think,
25 two stroke.
That may not be a friendly.
Do you need a drink?
180 pounds.
We got my 6-year-old grandson, 50.
Awesome.
For Christmas this year. No, we were looking electric. Nice. No kidding. Nice with the gas bike. No kidding. So they had a,
No, it should be.
it's called.
That's so cool.
It's called a gas, and it's made by Husqvarna.
Yeah, they're a great company.
Yeah, and they had made these little electric
Let me
bikes.
know.
$5,000.
No
Yeah.
kidding.
So we bought him a T250, a Yamaha TTR 50. Yeah. And now
That
he's,
used to be the little Pee-wee 50,
Yeah.
right? The same thing?
oh, it's the same, yeah.
I
I mean,
haven't changed that design.
I had a 4-wheeler, a Yamaha 4-wheeler that was an
Badger or one of them,
Yeah.
something like that.
and it was the same motor. Same matter. I mean, so I'm looking at the spike, I'm like, I can take that thing apart right here.
They're bullet.
Yeah, yeah,
You keep that corn syrup gas out of them, you know?
yeah, you gotta keep the ethanol in them.
Mr. Harwood,
How are you, Gage?
good, how are you
That's
doing?
good for you. We got a little place there. You don't hold me. We got a little place we can take it.
Okay,
Local county.
Yeah.
How to have you come.
we built, so I have an acre in the backyard.
You build a little field.
And I built a track around it that's got railroad type bombs. and
Yeah, I like that.
He's just, yeah,
Oh, perfect.
he's great. Crap out of it.
The things it does. Gonna make it ironclad.
Good, let's just, yeah, make sure we don't fall through the cracks. All right, let's go with our next discussion item regarding the Pineview Design Project. Sean Wilkinson's with us, Gary Myers is not with us, Ashley Tolman's with us, Todd Ferrario, Jennifer Graham's not here, Sean Harwood. I think we've got everybody. Okay, Ashley, this has kind of been your baby.
This is in my portfolio or lab.
Yeah.
So this is
Good
the
way to put it.
agreement between Weaver County and the Forest Service to have sites around Pineview redesigned. It's a project we've been working on for a while. We're pretty much within sight of the finish line, but we don't think we're gonna be able to make it there by the end of the year. So this modification that we have proposed is to extend the agreement for 3 more months or 1 more quarter. Typically, these are quarterly reports that we put in for performance and finance, so we just thought it'd be easy to do another quarter, extend that, and so that's what we're proposing at this point, is to extend our agreement with the Forest Service another quarter to wrap up the last of the design, and there will also be a financial modification that will be proposed in the future. We've been working on the details of that. I think we're pretty close, but we're wanting to make sure we extended this agreement with the time to make sure then we can get the financial portion ironed out.
Okay. So we're sending that for 3 more, when's the deadline? When's the end of the contract?
It would be the end of this year.
So it goes
first.
through the end of the first quarter, 2024
Correct.
is what you're proposing,
Yes.
okay?
Yeah, so that's what we're proposing. We've got it on the commission meeting for tomorrow, make it official, but we wanted to bring it before you today and see if you had any questions. And
Well, Don't you have any questions on?
No.
But we do have questions, I guess I've got questions on our potential overruns with the design group that we've got hired. Todd's very familiar with this, I know Sean is, so, this Sean. We got a resolution on that 100%, are we still
I
looking?
think Sean would speak better, we do,
Yes.
and they have Sean F for forestry, Sean H really, has 100% drawings, they're right at the very end, and there has been Ashley, Sean and their group has worked with the A&E firm to say, we need an end number, and there has been an agreement between them that pulls it back down from the 247 back down to the 209.
Yes.
And Sean, would you please go
Yeah,
from there?
So Sean, I don't know if Commissioner Bolos is fully aware of kind of, this precedes us by a couple of years. Will you go through the mechanics of that?
So I can speak to the end of that. If you want, before that, Ashley and Todd will probably be the best, and Sean can chime in there.
Okay.
But Commissioner, my understanding is there were some things that were outside of the scope, the original scope that were asked for. So those went back to the engineering firm. They had contracts with other engineering firms to help with this. There were some cost overruns that went beyond the original budget that we had. That number was up to 163, and then it was up to 209, and then we got another estimate that said 247. That was when I came and talked to you.
Right.
But since that time, Ashley has talked to the engineering firm. They've gotten with all of their subs, and everyone has agreed that the 209 number should be sufficient to take everything through the end of the contract.
100%,
Yeah.
okay, so that's
That includes the bid documents and everything.
a
so,
number that I've relied upon was the 209.
Yes.
And just to finish that off, so $100,000 of that will be coming from the fund that is off of the $3 from Pineview as the county's portion of getting this multi-million-dollar project going. The other 109 is coming as a path through from URC from the forestry. This is the next step that has to get done before we can start spending the federal state monies, which Sean can address. But we gotta get A done before we can go. Will be in the next month negotiating with URC to redo our contract. It's up. You guys are aware, we're gonna ask for 4 instead of 3. We'll see how that goes. But that will get us, there's enough money left with the check we get this year to still do the dumpsters and the restrooms pre-construction to get us, and during construction, to get us to the phase that these facilities will be opening up again. So I think we're pretty balanced, and we should be able to build that fund up substantially by the time we're go, so we can engage with the forestry to do something from the county.
So just to be clear, we're taking 100,000 out of our funds that we received from
Yes,
the Forest
The
Service
executive
now,
fund,
ERC.
yeah.
And so we put 100,000, they're doing 109,
Right.
is that correct?
Yep,
Okay.
correct. Mhm.
All right, okay, so that's the breakdown.
Yep.
Okay.
That's what I remember.
And we'll still have enough, basically what we do is do dumpsters and odds and ends.
And
up there.
bathrooms.
There's
Bath-
dumpsters and a restroom at one of the
Restroom, yeah.
sites, yeah.
Okay. All right, so that appears to be settled then.
Yeah, so you'll see more of those details with the next modification, and another part of our agreement we had was a beach cleanup.
Yeah,
We're gonna need to, change that because this spring, the spring of 2023, there was still snow. when
There
they
wasn't
had
any
it
beach.
scheduled, and
no
so
beach,
No
yeah.
beach to clean up, yeah.
that didn't happen, so we need to negotiate some of those details in that original agreement to make sure we're meeting the full agreement.
And really, this is a relationship thing. This has been a phenomenal process for the last 3 years since both you two have been to the Pineview committee meetings.
Yeah.
It started off like everyone has 3,000 ideas of what should be done. We're to the point, this is on paper, and we have the yacht club, the forestry, we've chipped in, properties has chipped in to do things. As a matter of fact, you mentioned the flood, the yacht club went down to the Valley Yard. And cause they couldn't do cleanup, they filled 1,000 sandbags for the county.
5,000.
5,000, yeah, for the county because the day was planned.
Right.
Oh, I remember that.
And so these partnerships are really good for the next 30 years up there that we're building, so.
I agree.
Commissioners, if I can say one other thing. we've enjoyed our partnership with the Forest Service on the Causey project as well.
Yeah.
So they've been very helpful. We're working closely together there. Our costs went up on that as well, but in order to get these larger projects done, you know, we bite the bullet sometimes at the local level and fund a little bit more so that we can get the bigger project done in the end. And you have helped us with that on the Causey project as well.
Yeah.
Well, it's taken us 5 or 6 years so to get that thing.
Yep.
And we're getting still, the federal money was how much on that project?
Millions.
Yeah, so it's 12 million fed highways, the Forest Service put in 1 million. So the bang for the buck on Causey is huge.
Huge.
And it's the same with Pineview.
Same with Pineview.
Yeah, same with Pineview. I mean, if you look at the figures right now, the priority sites that we're working on right now are $22 million. We do have 6 million of that money to begin to start the project. We're beating the bushes for more money. We put together a proposal and went to the outdoor initiative from the state. It's all looking really good. But yeah, the bang for the buck, I mean, $100,000 out of your executive fund buys $22 million worth of facilities. So that's a real, that's a
That's a
real
good
take.
payback.
I think
Yeah.
it's a pretty good investment with local government dollars.
I would think so.
Well, and Causey will help my $30,000 in bathroom usage from
Yeah.
Causey. We'll be happy.
Yeah, and that, the Causey plans are 75%, correct, Sean? And we have 100% plans from the A&E firm that Ash has been working with for the Pineview stuff. So
Nice.
our plan is to put Pineview into our contracting process in January.
Okay.
And that takes some time, I mean, everything, you said it, right? 5 years ago, we started this process, you said it. I mean, nothing in government works very quickly, but we'll get it in there and then, we're proposing 2025 to get started.
For Pineview.
Yeah, mhm, yeah,
Now you're gonna, so the 6 million guaranteed,
yep, we have
is
it.
it, is that correct?
Yep,
And then potentially from the act, if that gets funded, then you have potential from the state.
yeah, mhm, right.
And what's the amount from the state that,
We threw a figure out and we're letting them come back with a figure to us.
okay,
The figure was 50 million to fix Pineview,
okay,
and it's in this document right here.
okay.
And when they all saw the page, they all went, but that's what it takes. I mean, it's like Sean mentioned, the price is going up, but it's the cost of living. It's just the way things are, inflation on everything. So
What did it cost to build Pineview when you were a boy, Gigs?
Well, they wiped out all my ancestors, they wiped out Swineville with that, yeah. So we still have little hard feelings over that.
I know, but I wonder what the cost of construction
Oh,
was back then.
Yeah, not very much compared.
probably could have put everything down for $1 million.
I'd say 1 million, 2 million, maybe.
That's
back
what I
then.
meant.
So when will you hear on the state funding?
It's after the first of the year.
And Sean, which group did you ask for funding from?
It's outdoor recreation initiatives.
Okay,
Yeah.
because they have like a dozen different initiatives going on, depending on which bucket.
And we had
it is.
other forests in the state, because it's a statewide program. We had other forests in the state propose projects,
Sure.
but none of them even came close to what we're looking for Pineview. I mean, this is a big deal, and they know it's a big deal, so,
Okay,
yeah.
all right. Well, so we have all our Ts crossed at this point in time then.
I don't have
Till
any, I
tomorrow.
don't have any reservations with going and extending it another 3 months.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, no, I think that needs, and Ashley, you and your team have done a great job. This has been a lot of meetings, the last 3 years over this.
Yeah.
Sean, it's nice to see this finally start to come to a resolution.
Yeah, it is. It's exciting.
Yeah. Yeah,
It'll be a big project.
I'll get a statue of Pineview maybe.
yeah.
Like a new Kahanamoku.
Yeah,
Just my arm from here down going like this.
Yeah.
and your board shorts.
Don't
My
count
board
on that.
Board shorts, yeah.
All right, anything else? Mr. Harwood,
No, I don't think so, unless you have questions for me.
you're not gonna retire anytime soon, are you?
It gets further and further away every day.
That's great. Glad to hear.
My wife doesn't want to quit working, so I don't want to quit till she does, so.
You know, the year 2035 is a nice number.
But then the Olympics will be here.
Oh, 20 cents.
Yeah, 2033 and a half sounds perfect.
Yeah, 2033 and a half, and I'm out.
We've We've done that, been there, done that.
They are opening the new lifted snow basin tomorrow, though, so.
That's what I heard.
Yeah, it's grand opening tomorrow. I'll
Actually, I
go
talked to
Moise.
Davey last week, yeah.
Is there snow up there, Gage?
Yes.
It's pretty
6
marginal,
feet.
but
The top is good.
top's okay.
Yeah. Top's real good. Bottom's man-made, but they've got good coverage.
No, it could be a lot worse.
Yeah.
It'll be cold enough in the morning.
I'm taking my kids
Oh,
there
doggone
tomorrow.
it, we got a connection.
You going up, trying to do lift?
What a shame.
Are you?
Fun.
Why
That's a
didn't,
shame.
I wonder,
No, they're
you
called
wanna run
retreat.
commission? You wanna run commission?
I can do it.
We have our department head meeting up there.
Yeah,
tomorrow.
exactly. Yeah, let's start there at 8 o'clock. Get David. Kick the
Department head
lift on.
meeting,
Yeah.
no basement.
Launching off.
Thanks.
Thank you,
Nice to
guys.
see you.
Thanks, Sean. Todd, appreciate it.
Thanks, Sean.
Thank you.
Well, we're back on schedule. Todd, you wanna send Ricky in if he's out there?
You betcha.
See you guys.
See you
Keep
later.
in touch.
This one first.
All right, welcome. We're here for a 1:30 discussion regarding changes to the County Campaign Finance Ordinance. Mr. Ricky Hatch, Lauren Schaefer, Brandon Quinney, and who's your assistant over here?
This is Billy Hatch. She's one of our new employees.
Really bad.
You the marathoner, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's a marathoner.
She's in Woodland, yeah.
What are you doing here? Get out and practice. Run a little bit. Welcome. Okay, Ricky, you doing this? Lauren, who?
I'm gonna have Lauren take it.
So we have two things to talk about. The first one, which I handed you, is we have a precinct. The map. We have a precinct that's gone over its statutory required amount of voters.
Oh,
So it's sitting at,
West Haven.
Always problems. in West Haven.
I don't know who to blame.
Yeah.
The state requirement is for 1,250, and
Oh.
this current precinct is at 1,522. Can only make changes every 2 years. So we want to do it this year, so it'll affect 2024, and then we won't have to touch precincts again until 2026. So it would be, this would be the only precinct we'd change between now and 2026. But there's a very convenient canal that divides the precinct in half. So the top image is West Haven 10 currently, and the bottom image is showing where that canal runs through the middle of the precinct.
That's the red line?
Yep.
Okay.
So we're just basically wondering,
Wow.
you're comfortable with that division, because we have to make the change on the 2nd of January. That's the last time we can lock it in.
This has no impact to the county whatsoever. It's just an administrative rule that's really, it's no longer relevant in Utah, but they still have it. It will impact the party because it'll create a new precinct, so they'll have to elect
So they have
leadership.
to adjust for that.
Okay,
But they'd get the same ballot.
you're a West
as
Haven
the West
expert.
Haven 10 would anyway.
Okay.
So the ballot would stay the same. It would just be West Haven 10 would get the same ballot as West Haven 14 instead of all of 10.
Doesn't
Where is
change
it?
it doesn't change the legislative or senate districts at all in that area?
Nope.
Okay. Really doesn't.
You just add one more precinct.
It's administrative. We have to do it because the law says so. Otherwise,
Okay.
we wouldn't have done it.
So the statute limited to the 1,000 whatever,
Yep.
1,250.
okay, well. You okay with that, Matt?
I just wanna know where it is.
You're the West
I
Haven
can't
expert.
read it. Also, this.
It's right there.
There's a typo on the second line, just FYI, it should
No.
be West Haven 10, right?
Oh, yes, it should.
I just wanna make sure when that comes through officially.
No, thank you.
Is that 4,000
It
south?
looks like
You
4,000.
can see that?
I can see 3850 to the north in
Where's
one of these
4,000? I
roads.
can't read it.
So, and it's, as you go
What's this road?
south.
What's this road?
So that is,
Well, the existing line is
3,500.
already defined. You're just cutting this in half.
That's all we're doing.
Yeah, so it doesn't.
Right along the
really
canal,
relevant
perfect.
in my mind.
Well, I like roads or canals, so
No.
neighbors don't say
Things that
Like the
don't
canal's
move.
out there.
things that don't move.
We're
Like the river.
Natural boundaries.
In case we're talking to Bob Stevenson and the Davis County line again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You like things, you don't necessarily move on you.
Just in case you were.
You okay with that,
Yeah.
West Haven? Okay, I think it looks good to me.
Okay, then we'll get
Good
back on the
idea.
agenda.
This a resolution?
All Billy.
Way to go, Billy.
So
Way to go,
we
Billy.
couldn't find anything in the state that said.
And then our second thing we have to talk about, and this one's a little bit longer, is we need to make a couple ordinance changes just to the campaign finance.
Yeah, that didn't have to do with campaign finance, but. Okay,
So, let me pull out my notes on this, because there's quite a few changes. We're hoping to add 2 reports and then make some clarifying changes. Right now, so you'll do your annual report in January that you're all used to. The next report that a voter would see would be the report that they'd receive 7 days before the primary, but their ballots get to them 21 days before. So we want to add 2 additional reports. The first would be the convention report, which is that second one under definitions. And then the second would be the pre-election report. The convention report would be filed 7 calendar days before the day of that candidate's specific party convention. So it wouldn't be that every candidate files one, like when the Democrats have a convention, the Republicans would just be, if you're a Republican candidate, you have a report 7 days before your convention. And then the pre-election report would be a report filed 7 calendar days before ballots go out. So that when your ballot hits your front door, you already have that financial disclosure information, because right now, most people are casting their ballot, and then the report comes out way past the time they've already returned
I
it.
never thought of that, but you're right, yeah, okay, yeah.
And then the other things we want to do are just some clarifying changes with penalties. Right now, the statute for disqualification is slightly unclear with the way we write these reports. So we've, in the definitions, clarified what an interim report is, which is just that primary report or general report, which matches state statute. So if you didn't file 7 days before your primary or 7 days before your general, you would be disqualified as you would under state statute. But then anyone else who fails to file a report will just be issued that $100 fine that we've already set up in our county ordinance. And this only applies to county candidates. It wouldn't apply to city candidates or state candidates.
Yeah,
And then the other clarifying thing we did under penalties is currently in ordinance, we have failure to pay, and it's part 3 under penalties, failure to pay a fine and file a report precludes an individual from filing to become a candidate until we added in future elections, or are hoping to add in future elections. Because one thing Brandon and I talked about is, say we disqualified a candidate, that language could theoretically say, if I submit this report now or pay my fine, can I undisqualify myself? So I wanted to clarify that that meant only for future elections, not for the current one.
right, okay,
So really, the purpose of these changes, the main purpose is the timing of the reports and the number of the reports. So the state requires reports 7 days before election day for the primary in general. We had a lot of complaints last year of people saying, I want to see financial reports before convention. I want to know who's paying, who's donating to my candidates. And there was no mechanism to do that. So then we added the pre-convention report 7 days before convention. Then the second one is 7 days before the primary. Well, probably 30 to 40% of votes have been cast already by that time. And so we wanted to have more accurate current information available to the voters so that when they're making their choices at home, if they're going to vote early, they have that full information. So it's adding more reports, but I think it's a better thing for the voters.
2 more reports.
2 more, or a
Up to
third.
3.
Cause it's 7 days before ballots go out, so if they make it through their primary, they'd have a third report, cause
right.
they'd be in the general, but if they don't make it through their primary, it would just be the 2.
Right, got it, okay. Yeah,
Yep, that's it.
questions, commissioners? No, I think it does a better job serving the public, so, yeah.
Great.
That's all we have.
Brandon, your opinion on this?
No, I helped Lauren with this. We cleaned up a few items that just the clarification points. Otherwise, most of these recommendations come from Ricky and his team in practice. The next step would be the first reading. on a commission agenda, so we'll get that prepared
Good.
for you with the cover sheets, and you should be seeing that. I'm thinking your next one is next year,
I think it's the second.
or the 2nd of January,
Great,
when you'll see the first reading.
perfect, okay.
And then I was gonna
Good
have
work.
Billy do our training on long distance running.
Yes, no.
Billy's our rock star. She just has jumped in and done so much in the
Good.
elections office. She's taken on a lot of new responsibilities and like, they're all rock stars, but we appreciate Billy. And she's the one that did the precinct changes.
Well, that's good, well, that's good. And Commissioner Harvey just thought of something, you know, you've got a runner here. We're training Commissioner Harvey to participate in the
Yeah.
marathon next year, and you've got somebody right downstairs that could take you out and
Yes.
give you the ropes.
Yeah,
can't
Yeah.
tell you just how exciting that.
we did give him the shortest leg so he can do it.
What I'm saying is, he won't have, doesn't have any excuses now not to,
No,
yeah,
that's right.
just,
Your own coach.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right there.
right there.
I
In-house,
got 3 days to go 3 miles or whatever it is.
3 days.
I think I'll be okay.
Some of those shoes with wheels.
yeah.
That's what it is. Yeah, just
With
right
battery.
on my heel. Yeah, there you go. Hey, that's really a pretty good idea.
Yeah.
That's the
Hold my heels up. and
2:30.
Wheelie wheels.
It is downhill pretty much from there, so,
See?
yeah,
Down on
Told him I'd stay with him and
there you go.
Yeah.
keep him
All
coming.
right, anything else? Lauren, Ricky?
Thanks, you guys.
Okay, Billy, thank you very much. Looks like
Go.
good changes to me. So what's your plan on getting the word out on these? Because don't you have to file first part of January?
We're thinking we'll make a handout to send home with candidates. saying
Okay.
This is likely what will happen, so just be prepared, and then once it's
Okay.
actually, once we've set it in stone, we'll send out additional information to them.
Okay, great.
We also, I just was in a meeting this morning with a representative who is working on a bill that would allow counties, you don't even know this yet, that would allow counties to join the statewide system for financial disclosures.
Oh.
So we could possibly take advantage of that, and that has email reminder capabilities as well.
Well,
There you go.
I'd vote for that in a heartbeat. That's,
Yep.
I mean, their system is just so easy. Just click on a button, put it in.
Yeah.
And you know it's done. Yeah,
And that's what I told him. I said, boy, I don't think you're gonna hear much concern from the counties.
so it'd be an option for,
Yep, not a requirement.
yeah, no,
And if-
somebody, yeah,
And doing that would not eliminate, for example, these extra reports that
No.
we require.
yeah.
It doesn't override or,
You can set your own report periods in the system,
Yeah,
because I used to manage it. So it's very easy to add,
no,
like
Oh,
if
there
we
you
wanted to
go.
make it county specific.
so that you need a statute change to do that?
yeah, because it's also deals with conflict of interest disclosure. They
Right.
want to do the same thing for conflict of interest.
Yeah,
So I didn't see a problem with that either.
no, I
Easy to,
think it simplifies a lot for a candidate. It's crystal clear.
so that's coming,
Good.
we think. It was a committee bill. But the committee bill just addresses conflict of interest. They're thinking of adding on the
Yeah,
financial disclosures.
is that going through political summer? Yeah, good.
Yep.
All right, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good to know.
Thank you.
Agree with their chief.
Well, we've got 15 minutes, commissioners.
Motion to saunter.
Okay,
Okay.
all those in favor? All right,
Aye.
we're sauntering until 2 p.m. All right. That's all we need. So with that, let's start our 2 p.m. Is it 2 p.m.? Yeah, discussion regarding vehicle use policy and employee communication document and URS contribution rate. Miss Emily Wild. Emily, you're up.
Okay, so with the vehicle use policy, this was in response to, we had originally revised it and then Commissioner Harvey, you had asked about which vehicles actually need a driver's license or what don't need. So Portland reviewed that. And basically, though motor vehicles, so those that are to be driven on the roads, require a driver's license. So all of your like farm equipment, your forklifts, Zambonis, things like that, do not require a valid driver's license. So we revised the policy to define the terms of what's a motor vehicle versus equipment, so that we know, okay, these types of equipment that are going to be driven on the road require a valid driver's license, that then the risk manager will verify that the employee has a valid driver's license, and the others don't require a valid driver's license. So we kind of define that in the policy. So we define what a motor vehicle is versus equipment vehicle or, machinery, and just added that language into the policy.
Okay.
So that's really just the change. And then going back to that, our risk manager will check for the valid driver's license for those that are required to drive a motor vehicle to make sure that they're valid. So that's the change. Cortland has reviewed it and the policy committee has reviewed it. They didn't see any issues, so now it's before you to.
Now, I'm assuming that's not gonna impact our commercial, like on our transfer station for CDLs. So we probably follow state statute on that, I'm
Right,
assuming.
right.
Okay,
Correct, yeah, so and that part of the policy did not change.
okay, so that's already in there.
That's already in there and that's not changing.
Okay, great, good. All right,
So,
what else?
that's it as far as the vehicle use policy,
Okay.
unless you guys have any other
That was
questions.
easy question.
Happy
for Emily?
about that.
That's good.
No, that's good.
Okay, and then, so I believe you have the documents in front of you
With the
for
two
the.
QR codes?
Yes, so this is the URS mandatory contribution. So one is for the public safety, the 2.14, and then one is for the public employees, 0.7. So this is just the documents that we want to put out to all of the employees, explaining that July 1st, they will have this mandatory contribution, but that we're going to auto deduct it starting January 12th. And that money will go into a 401k until it switches over to July 1st. So the reasoning is so they don't see a reduction in their paycheck in July.
Yeah.
And then they can opt out if they don't want the money put into their 401k. They can opt out by scanning the QR code or clicking that link. So if they opt out, then January to June, it won't be taken out, but then starting July 1st, it will then, they'll see a slight reduction in their paycheck because that's when the URS contribution takes effect. So that's what these two flyers are for, just to let employees know that this is coming and that they can opt out for the first 6 months.
Yeah.
If they don't want it.
That's a great option. So I mean, I don't know how you can get much more fair than that.
Yeah.
Now, do all these people, will all these have 401ks then?
So, yeah, so everybody that is in the, our option comes with a 401k, so whether they contribute or not.
All right, so they get 401k no matter, okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Mhm.
Okay, I like it. Commissioner Bolos, this is your portfolio.
Good, that's good.
Yeah. Commissioner Hart?
That's good, just what the doctor ordered.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's, this puts it in their control, and so they can't come back and say, we didn't want that. Well, here, you have an option, you can not take it out if you want.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
your choice.
Yep, and then it kind of just reminds them, starting July 1st.
Yeah.
It's a URS thing that, has to be taken out. So, okay, then if you're fine with it, I'm gonna send this out to all of the directors. first, and we'll let them, kind of give them a heads up, and then we'll send it out to the employees. Mhm.
Perfect. Okay,
So. And then
I like it.
I didn't put this just kind of came up, and I don't know, this is not on the agenda, so can I add
If it came
something?
up, it's usually HR managers are administrative. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, tell me if I can't, but, so we got.
It's your fault.
We got a call from a retiree, Becky Reed, who, she has a retirement contract with us, and she took the medical and dental plan, so she's stayed on the medical and dental for the county.
Oh,
And she came back and wanted to do an amendment to her contract to remove herself from the insurance, but have that money put into an HRA account. Because I'm not sure if she found cheaper insurance elsewhere or whatnot, but with the cost of the insurance. So she wanted to amend her contract. So I ran it through Cortland and Scott Park, and they were both fine with it. They think it will actually save the county some money by taking her off of the insurance and putting that money into the HRA, because they only actually get that money if they use it. And so versus right now, we're paying $952 a month to keep her on the medical plan. So by moving her to the HRA for the rest of the contract period, 28 months, the hope is that she's not going to use that money, because they only actually get to use it if they.
Does she have to use it within that 28 months too?
Within that 28 months, and then whatever she doesn't use, she just doesn't get.
Oh, wow.
So it's just,
Well, make sure she understands that.
right,
so where does that money go if she doesn't, does that come back to us or?
so we don't,
Yeah, we never spend it.
yeah, we don't actually give them
Yeah,
the money, but we say, okay, this is how much you would have in an HRA. And then
I got it.
they send their bills into
I got
MBS, and we just pay those out
yeah,
of that money.
okay.
So
Well, it could save us.
the idea
Yeah,
being, I mean, it would
possibly.
be $26,000. The idea being she would have to use that amount in 28 months, which I don't,
Yeah. That's a
I
lot,
would think she wouldn't use that much. And so I think it'll save the county some money, but
that's a lot to spend on, yeah. Hopefully she doesn't.
Is there any way it would cost us more?
no,
Okay,
no, because she would only get what
we've been paying.
we've been paying in the medical and
Okay.
dental, which is $952.58 a month.
Well,
So
it gives
she
her
would-
some benefit, you know, if she decides to do it. I don't have an issue with that,
No,
Mr.
not
Chair.
either.
Yeah, that sounds like a good plan to me.
Okay, okay.
And she's okay with that, I guess.
Yeah, she's the one that approached
She-
us
Okay,
and said she wanted to do an amendment to change her retiree contract with that. So,
okay, yeah,
okay,
looks good.
okay.
Cortland's given his okay.
Yep, Cortland gave his okay, Scott Park gave his
Yeah.
okay, so, then we'll just have Cortland draw up an amendment and get that over to her then, and then you'll see that come through probably in January.
Yeah, well, it won't be tomorrow.
No, won't be tomorrow.
No,
You'll probably see that and then the, approval of the vehicle use policy then in January.
that's fine.
Great,
Okay,
appreciate it.
all right, that's all I have.
That's it?
Yeah.
Thank you
Thank
for what you do.
Okay, thank you, appreciate it.
You mind if I take a?
Yep. There's the public safety and then there's the public employees. And if you want to electronic copy, I'll give you. Okay, all right, thank you.
Thanks, Emily.
Thank you.
Okay, good.
Hey, I wonder if we can't move our snow removal agreement up
Yeah, do it.
right now. What do you think?
Mhm.
Since we got 20 minutes.
You want me to go see if I can get
Yeah.
hold of people? Who
And
do we
I'll
need
see,
to-
the other, we have quite,
Sean, Bill.
yeah, we just have Sean and
Sean,
Bill.
Yeah, let's see if we can do
Portland.
that. That'll be more efficient.
I'm on it.
I like how you move it up from the bottom.
Yeah.
Oh, boy, Dave.
Let's take the bottom. No reason to be here at 3:30 if we don't have
That's
to.
fine.
We all got other things we could be doing, right?
Just in case, just in case. Oh, boy.
Mind if I ask a question? Would that be okay with the commissioner?
Go ahead.
Just regarding, item number.
Well, I'm gonna take us. Move ahead a little bit. All right, so we're going to change up the agenda a little bit. We're gonna go to the 3:30 discussion regarding snow removal agreement at Powder Mountain. Sean Wilkinson, Cortland is not here.
He's on his way up. He's
Okay.
on the phone with the department.
Bill Ross is here and Cortland's on his way. Chris Crockett is with us still. Okay. Powder Mountain.
Yes, commissioners, we have an agreement with Powder Mountain. They approached us about having the ability to pave the county, or excuse me, not pave, to plow the county roads after hours. So when we are through plowing and we're not up there, they would like the ability to plow our roads for the guests that they have up there at that time. So this agreement is a license agreement, so the county would be giving license to Powder Mountain for its own benefit and the benefit of its customers to plow the county roads when the county is not plowing them. That's really the gist of the agreement. So
What if they damage like the guardrail or the
Yes.
side curbs? And
Yep. That's a great thought. So we've covered that. So what it does say is that Powder Mountain agrees that this agreement does not impose any additional snow removal requirements on the county. Powder Mountain agrees that this agreement does not create any additional liability on the part of the county.
Yeah.
Or for our failure to perform snow removal. And the county would authorize Powder Mountain at its sole discretion and option to perform additional snow removal. This does not obligate them to do that. And they will be solely responsible to pay for the repair of any and all damage that occurs to the county roads and their related infrastructure caused by Powder Mountain's snow removal activities.
How would we know if there's damage?
Yeah. Our
So-
guys are there every day.
Yeah,
They'll know.
Yeah, because our guys will still be there.
correct.
They're gonna show up the next
They're
day.
there.
I'm assuming most of theirs will be at night, right?
Yes, exactly.
And how do you know when the damage is done? During the day or the night?
Well-
Obviously, the driver would know, but.
Yeah, so our
Well,
drivers,
there's a Conversation about, you
our
know,
drivers
we
are gonna
didn't
tell
do
Bill
that,
it's
that
done.
was-
So during the winter, for the most part, the guardrail is covered in snow.
yeah,
Our guys get as close to it as they can and we damage it every year. So we replace guardrail every year. But we would know if something was significantly damaged. Are there cameras up there?
There are no cameras because
cameras.
there's no power for them.
That's right.
But the thing is, they're doing it from about 5 o'clock till 10 o'clock is when they'll be
Yeah.
doing it. And, yeah, they're going into that. We've already been plowing it, so it's not like they're plowing a blind road. So they're very, very limited chances of ruining any guardrail or anything like that. Because we'll have it plowed all the time. They're not like, they won't do it overnight. So when Travis goes up there in the morning, our guys start when there's fresh and
right.
blown in road, snow on the roads and stuff, and that's.
Has Powder Mountain seen this language yet?
They've signed the agreement. Yes.
So I was wondering if, I mean, I don't know if it's a huge deal because we'll be able to notice, but maybe put a mandatory reporting obligation on them that, I mean, it's gonna be hard to enforce it.
Yeah,
So
Well, what can they damage besides a potential guardrail?
it's not really,
Nothing.
I mean-
it's really only putting in writing what they're already been doing
Yeah.
for years.
Right.
I mean, they have a guy that works there, Roger, and we've been giving him, because he plows it, and even when we're short, we're not, there's times when it'll blow and he'll just plow it, they'll plow it, we'll give him a replacement blade for the year. Joe's kind of worked some of that out. But Roger, they plow, they're already doing it. This is just putting it in writing that we're allowing
Yeah.
them to do it because they're gonna probably do it a little more than they've been doing and stuff, a little bit later.
And we don't control like their schedules or anything, their dispatching of their drivers,
No.
so we don't have to worry about workers' comp.
Nothing.
And personally, just looking at that, when we don't plow, cause our drivers start, Travis is up there at 4 AM in the morning and he pulls off about 4 in the afternoon. So they kind of have been helping us with little drifts and things
Yeah.
throughout the evening. Really, if they didn't do that, I think the county, we're more liable when cars try to get down and through those things or get stuck. I mean, I look at this as actually a benefit for the county personally, because
We do,
it actually makes the road a lot safer for those people that maybe do try to get out between the hours of 5 to 10 or have an emergency and need to get out.
What about, I just wanna raise the question, with those big blowers, the way it works, What about when you come down into the cul-de-sac? You blow that snow into a window or something like that. I mean, I don't know, or are we always using a plow at the end of that one?
We plow at the end. Yeah, we don't blow.
I've noticed that there's big piles at the end.
There will be a house there at some future time, and then we'll have to. we'll worry about
Only if that is abandoned, that lift station down there.
That's right, there is a lift station right there. So,
You pile the snow on that lift station.
we do.
Yeah,
Yeah, we don't have the.
yeah.
That's always been a concern, how we're gonna do that
Oh, tell me.
all those houses get in there and stuff, so,
That'll be interesting.
yeah.
Well, I think it's actually a benefit to the county. Now, first off, they're doing it right now. One of their driver gets hurt or a member of the public gets hurt. Now we just reduced our liability by this agreement.
That's
I mean,
correct.
they've been
Oh,
doing
that's
it.
a
All
good
this does is
idea, too.
protect
That's
us.
great. That's
And
good.
for Portland's great work in putting that together, you know, always has the best interest of the county in mind.
Gordon, you're just like the amazing Preston. You should see the future.
Cortland, the question that was brought up is, how do we know if they cause some damage to a guardrail or, you know, maybe they damage the pavement somehow while they're plowing?
What's the topic?
This is the.
Powder Mountain.
Powder Mountain.
Plowing, okay.
Yeah, plowing up at Summit, up at Powder Mountain. And Chris brought up, maybe there's some kind of a mandatory reporting requirement that we put in the agreement that says if they damage something, they have to report that to us. It's not in the agreement and they've signed it, but we could always go back.
Yeah, if you haven't signed it yet, we can take it back.
Right, if that's something you want in the agreement, we can go back to them, see if they will. At the end of the day, if they say, no, we don't like that, they just don't sign this and then they don't.
It's
plow
more
it.
important we have that agreement signed than, because we're gonna know the damage if there's any. Our guys will know it at 4 AM in the morning.
And yeah, really, they're using.
And what else they didn't do besides the guardrail?
Dump trucks.
That,
Oh, I didn't.
My only one,
No, they're just.
they're plowing on ice, so if they chip anything, it's gonna be an ice, you know, dam or whatever.
Okay.
I guess my only concern is, but we should be able to do this based on the time of the report of the damages, if they clip a car or if there's damage to private property. You know, if someone reports it, we won't be able to figure that out.
Right.
But they assume liability. So say if it goes on personal property, they just agreed that they're gonna deal with it. Cause they hold us harmless, right?
They do.
Right, it's just if, showing who actually hit the car, but we'll be able to do that by
We'll
the
know.
time of report.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if our employees don't report anything, we'll be able to get to the bottom of it, so I'm not too concerned about
Okay.
getting an amendment to the agreement.
So commissioners, we're happy to do whatever you'd like. If you'd like us to negotiate and put that provision back in, we can do that.
I hate to give them a chance to back out.
Yeah. I'm in.
Yeah.
Like I said, they're using regular
F-450s,
not dump trucks, so I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not gonna cause.
No,
right?
Shane.
Yes.
yeah. No, I think it's
Yeah.
the benefit of having them sign that in our advantage.
So Cortland has reviewed it. Summit has signed it already.
Okay,
It's on your consent agenda for tomorrow morning,
okay.
but if you want me to do anything, I can pull that off.
I think we ought to keep it unless
I'm fine.
you want to add to it. Okay, I think you got it.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Boy, they signed it before that's
They did.
that's
Yep.
pretty good.
We've been going back and forth with them.
This is an easier group to work with than our past group.
It seems like that, yes.
For some reason.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Is that it?
That's it.
Still under time, look at that.
Look at that. Wow, just let these things move.
You want 3 more minutes?
Hey, yeah, you got
No.
3 minutes if you need it.
Chris will yell at me if I.
Well, Sean, you're-
Wait a second, hold on what about this?
Sean, you can't go yet.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Right here, number 6.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Sean's on for
the
the,
landscaping improvement.
Yeah, so Steve Burton will lead that discussion.
oh,
So
you don't need to be here for that.
I'm on there, but I may run it down to a meeting
Okay.
downstairs, but so I may not be here for
Send,
that.
send Steve in if he's out there.
Let's go.
Thank you.
I was gonna bring it, Cortland would like to drive the snow plow if that's okay, or the snow cat.
Wrote that in there, didn't I?
Yeah, that's in the agreement. Be careful when
You wanna
do
throw that
Yeah.
blower, don't you, that big blower?
That's what looks cool.
The blower would be
We
fun.
need to check it for safety.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seatbelts properly click.
I'll bet that thing, holy cow. I'll bet that.
Steve, you got anybody else coming?
No, they're in a meeting right now.
They all bailed on you.
Oh, man.
Wow, okay. We're here to talk
Us
about the
four.
existing financial guarantees for private landscaping improvements. Mr. Steve Burton, go ahead.
Yeah, commissioners, I was talking with Rick Grover last week about, we've got these existing financial guarantees for landscaping, private landscaping. So
Right.
common area landscaping in certain developments like cluster subdivisions or PRUDs. An example of one is, are you familiar with Edgewater Beach development south of Pineview, right across from Old Snow Basin Road?
Yeah,
There's some condos, there's also some duplexes and some townhomes in that. We're holding on to several $100,000 of private landscaping money. The reason we wanted to bring it to you is because you're probably familiar with the state code that was passed earlier this year that says that counties can no longer require a developer to post a financial guarantee for private landscaping. We can for public landscaping.
For
if it's a
public, yeah.
Park or in the right of way,
right.
but for private landscaping, we can no longer require that on new developments. And the question was asked by our engineers is, should we just be holding on to this for existing private landscaping improvements? And in certain cases, we've been holding on to it for pretty near like 10 years. We've been holding on to these funds. In talking with Rick about it, at least personally, I think it would be nice if we didn't have to hold that onto those funds. I think it would be nice if the developer, obviously, there are certain cases where the developer is just not going to install. But the question, I guess the question at that point is it the county's responsibility to make sure that private landscaping is installed? And the way that state code is looking, it kind of sounds like it's the county's.
I don't like it. Doggone it. I like it when they get those in there because it helps the beautification.
It does. And there's that subdivision, I think of that cluster subdivision out west called Cameron Village. That the HOA, you might remember last year, the year before, the whole HOA came in and complained, why didn't you make sure the developer installed this? And now, with the way state code is going, we can't really make a developer do it anymore.
No.
So the question is, with what we have existing, should we be releasing all that back or should we be holding on to it?
Well, under state code, I'm not sure we could use that money to go in and do that, could we? So
Talking with Cortland, we do have, with existing developments where we're holding a financial guarantee for private landscaping.
Okay.
We do have a subdivision improvement agreement
Okay,
with the developer in those instances where we can actually hold on to it.
Right, yeah, so those were all previously done when the law was allowing us to do this, and so by agreement and by virtue of the fact that those were entered into before this changed, we can go ahead and use that for that purpose.
Okay,
But we don't want to, right? Because we may have a $10,000.
yes,
A guarantee for a $20,000 project.
Are we just giving ourselves more work?
That's-
We don't need to be doing.
that's where I'm headed, even as much as I like those, it's a lot of difference between the private and the public side.
Right.
Public, we're still okay to require that bonded. The private becomes another issue. I mean, those people bought knowing that they got private roads, private landscaping, all those issues. Is it the county's, right, well, I guess that we have the ability, but is that something we should get involved with in these private developments? I think to me, it's up to those people. Maybe you write a letter to the homeowners and saying, look, we're gonna release this. Talk to your developer, talk to your HOA.
We should definitely let them know.
Yeah,
Yeah, it would save us a lot of headache,
yeah.
tracking it.
Well, and enforcing it if it.
And how do you
if the HOA
enforce
gets
it?
Upset, right,
We
and
really
it would be nice if we didn't have to, but maybe it is nice if we have that ability, I guess that's the reason for the discussion.
Yeah, I just think it's time spent better somewhere else than that, but
Are we talking subdivisions where the developer is already in default on its obligation to install, or just the period still hasn't run out for them to do it, or? Some combination, or?
I don't know that we have very many that are that new. So I think most of them, the developer is in default, right? We're holding on to these for 10, 15 years. There's a subdivision in the Ogden, it's a cluster subdivision. It's all common area, private open space. We've been
Yeah.
holding on to $15,000 for, since the market crashed back in 08. So
So is there? I'm stepping out of legal issues here, definitely, but is there a reason not to just take that money? Hire someone to go plant a few trees or do whatever the landscaping is that was supposed to be done, at least as far as that money will take us, and then we get something done, and then we tell people who complain, this is all the money allowed us to do. We did what we could, we got rid of the money that way, so Scott's happy, and so.
I just think it becomes problematic if I go in and
Yeah.
say, okay, you're a private landowner, I'm gonna landscape half of your front yard.
right.
And put in the trees that I want and the curb and gutter where I want it.
And then the neighbor doesn't get his.
Well, or only do it halfway, cause I only have half the money, so I
Right.
can do a half of your, I just think that becomes, I don't know, I'd rather.
Is that a possible outcome, what Scott's describing here?
if we decide to move forward, if we decide to hold on to the funds,
No, if we decide to do the landscaping for them.
If we decide to use the funds for the purpose they were originally withheld for.
I think that is a possibility because we would only have so much. And back in 2008, right, the cost is gonna be way different than it is today.
So why don't we do this? Rather than say, okay, I don't want the contract with Weber County to go hire landscape specialists to go do half the work, because if we've got 15 years, I guarantee it's gonna be whatever that landscaping, it's under budget by 75, maybe 150%. But why couldn't we give that to the HO? Most of these privates have HOA. Why not? And maybe we need a statute change. And we can talk to some people about that, is that rather than us take it over, we just give it to the HOA. HOA, you guys go do what you want. Add more money to it, give yourselves all, a couple of trees.
I think we've had that conversation, at least with the problem where when we have those problems today, and what we find out is that agreement is with the original developer and we can't, but yeah, code change.
Well, if we call it a default.
But it's default.
And we're able to take that money and trespass, assuming we can, and install those improvements, why don't we just release it to the HOA? Who then can install those improvements?
But it puts us
That's where I
in
like.
breach of the
Release it.
agreement. It
Yeah,
all depends on
yeah,
the
just
Doing it ourselves.
take us out of the picture.
I like going to the HOA.
It all depends on the language of the agreement, because we don't want to be in a position where we ourselves are in breach of the contract. They're still not gonna get the improvements, and it might create a cause of action to have the developer come after us. I don't know that they probably wouldn't, because they're in breach of contract,
Right.
so I just don't know if there's a legal tie in the language of the agreement that would actually allow us to give that to the HOA. I agree that's the best solution.
So do we need a statute change or can we do that by ordinance?
I don't know.
Statute change wouldn't allow us, right? Statute, we have to change our codes to say that, well, to say that we can no longer require a financial guarantee at all for these private improvements.
Okay.
So I don't think a statute change helps us.
Get out of where we are, right?
Right.
Well, so our ordinance right now puts them in default. So
It's-
under default, we have the ability to take that money and use that how we best decide, right?
It's actually the contract that puts them in default, and
Okay,
the way the contract language is worded, we switched contract templates 5 years ago, maybe? 6, 7 years ago, I don't know. The older ones had different language that might be a little more restrictive than the newer ones. So how old are we talking about here as far as the agreements are concerned?
There are some that are before that 7
Yeah.
years, definitely.
And some that are after that time? Okay.
Is there a way to go in and work with the developer and the HOA to amend that contract and have them both sign it so that we can release that money and they give us the permission to release that to the HOA?
Yes, if they're around still and they're willing to work with us, we can do that as an amendment to the agreements. Otherwise, we could, like someone mentioned, call them in default officially under the provisions of the improvement agreement. And then we could do what the agreement allows us to do with that, which is either do the work or hire somebody to do the work or something like that, depending on what the agreement language says.
Do we hire the HOA to do the work?
I think if they're willing to enter into an agreement with us to do that, we could do that.
Absorb the additional cost.
Well, we would just say, this is the amount of money that we have for these improvements. You guys, this is what we're willing to pay. You go do what you can. They don't have to absorb any additional cost, right? They only do as far as they could go.
We say do what you can, but we're not gonna come follow up.
No.
That way we're not out there
Well,
like
I-
counting trees and stuff like that. The HOA just.
I don't think there's a lot of risk. Technically, we would be in the wrong because the contract wouldn't be allowing it, but the developer isn't going to come after because they never performed the contract in the first place. And so they're not gonna want to file a lawsuit on this.
no,
Well, in most of the situations most of the subdivisions that are in default, we don't have HOA or owners coming back. It's just we're holding the funds.
yeah, see, these are so long in default, I can tell you the developer has written it off. So the developer's written it off not only in his bank statement, he's written it off in terms of, okay, I'm never gonna get this done.
Yeah.
So you've got to do, the people there that would benefit from those have to make the decision. Is it a good idea to do that landscaping, or maybe they've already done it themselves? I mean, you go back 7 to 15 years, you know,
Well, in the
you got a different scenario.
the statute of limitation is probably long past, and so we're really not at a lot of risk.
Right, but I don't see a downside to sending some kind of notice of default to the developer at the developer's last known address. And that way we've at least cleared that contractual
Right.
obligation. And we're not, just doing something without providing some kind of notice, even if they don't really exist anymore, if it's an LLC that's defunct or whatever. We've at least tried to comply with that statutory obligation or contractual obligation, and then from there, yeah, take whatever route looks appropriate.
In our notice, we would say this was supposed to be done in this year and not treat the notice that we're sending now as we're now just letting you know. So so it doesn't hold the statute of limitations. We just have to be careful in the language we use, but yeah, we can do that.
The statute's being amended right now. The Planning Commission, Ogden Valley Planning Commission is looking at it tomorrow, and then Western Weaver, they looked at it last week. It's the very last paragraph that you guys have already seen, which basically says the county has full authority to pull the funds. If they're in default, pull the funds and use that money towards whatever they were there for. I just don't know if it supersedes any previous contract that
We won't. I don't think so.
So at least we'll be out of the trouble in the future.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess we'd have to look at the statute and see what it says about it.
We're holding an awful lot of money for people that we'll never give back. We've got $1.5 million that we're holding for not just landscape agreements, but just all sorts
All
of
kinds
master
of
agreements. So total we're at $10.5 million, but $1.5 million of that's from 2017 or prior. And they're all in default.
Yeah.
We just continue to hold this money, and the cost to do this work is going up every year, and we're not getting any extra money added to it. So I don't know what we do, but I'd like to get rid of it.
We need to get rid of the money, but we don't need to take on extra work with the liability that we're not gonna get what we paid for, or what they paid for, so.
I just don't want anybody to have cause of an action to say, hey, look, you've been holding my money for 15 years, come and do this work. You're
I
supposed to
think,
do it.
can we start from here forward to say, hey, if you've defaulted, you'll automatically, you signed this paper, where it's automatically gonna go to the homeowner, the homeowners association. I mean, we change our process just slightly, so when we get into this, 6 years from today, we've got a document that's got the sign, because now we gotta go back to all these guys and get a signed paper,
Yeah,
right?
So everything going forward, we won't actually take an agreement, right?
so not on private, no,
Yeah.
no. So we're cleared going forward, but now how do we get rid of that 1.5 million without having additional?
Well, I don't
cost?
know how we get rid of the 1.5 million. Going forward, any new money that's coming in, we're taking care of. I think with the new agreements, the way they've been operating, they're fine. It's these old agreements that were around before any of us were around. Well, I don't know how long Corbin's been here, but,
After you.
but, it's just, what do we do with all that money that we already held?
Right.
These agreements that don't have those provisions. So going forward, I think we've already fixed it going forward. It's
Well,
just-
state law fixes it going forward.
Right.
That state, we don't take any money going forward.
Well, but even on the ones that we do take that aren't private landscaping, but they're roadway or.
Yeah,
trail.
for
Yeah.
public.
Trails
Yeah.
or whatever it is.
Okay, got it. Okay.
I think we've addressed that as well, but it's what do we do with all this money that we're still.
Do we hold on to it? Do we send them? It sounds like, Chris, were you saying we with any financial guarantee for private landscaping, we send in, maybe you have two options. One, if you're not in default, or do we just hold it until they're in default?
Well, if they're not in default, we'll just continue with the contract as written, I would think, but if they are in default, I would say the county, my personal opinion is that we don't do anything with the money, for other funds or other departments or things like that, but that we either turn it over to an HOA or we divide it up amongst the lot owners who live there. That's personally what I would.
Yeah, I think we have to have an option out, or I'm assuming we could probably just interplead it to the court as well. That'd be a possibility. I mean, everything I've seen when you have money in a trust account or whatever, you just interplead it to the court, and they come after somebody, they go to the court.
This is only if we can't get hold of the developer?
Right, we'd
Give them
start
their
with the
funds back?
developer.
Okay.
We would want to notify the developer.
Yeah, you got,
Sometimes they exist, sometimes they don't, right? The LLC or whatever they created for their.
And what if they come and they say, look, I'm not in default, but you guys are just gonna hold on to this money until I am in default?
Well, I think we
Maybe we
would
should
look at the
call them.
contract terms, and if we had evidence that
We
made
could
us
call
believe they
it
were in
default.
default, we would call them in default, and if they disputed that, they could sue us, but
I guess I'm
otherwise.
just saying, does it make sense to hold on to funds for longer than we need to? Maybe they're not in, maybe they're not
Release
in,
the ones that are.
yeah, maybe they're not in default.
Oh, if they're not, if they really aren't in
Yeah,
default.
it's just up to, no, if they're not in default, because the statutes change, if we just contact those developers and say, do you want us to, cancel these contracts?
Amend them. to
Amend them
give
and
that
just
back.
let you go and do it.
I'd love to see that.
yeah, I think, and those are the ones not in default.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
I'm
It'd be
sure
nice-
they'd be happy to get their money back.
Well, it'd be nice to amend the contracts to have some type of avenue going forward for those not in default. The ones that are in default, you get a hold of the developer and, see if there's any possibility of them turning, signing an agreement to the HOA or whatever, or give it to the lot owners, whatever. So Sharon, what do you want to do on this?
I would just say have it out of our hands.
Yeah.
Even if it's not in default.
Yeah, well, and if it's not in default though, but if we have them come in and do an agreement that, so we don't have to go through this if they do go into default, we have a path forward in the future.
We got that, but moving forward, I'd like to get this, I think the best idea coming out of here, get that money out of our account.
Yeah.
By doing that, we go to the HOA, whatever we have to do, go to the HOA or divide it up with the lot owners that it's affected. I think that's the best way to do it. Then money goes from us to them and we're all done.
Scott, who gets the interest on the money that's in the account? They don't accrue any interest. That's their fee for us managing the escrow. So I don't give any interest to anybody here unless it's specifically written to the agreement.
Yeah. That's a management fee.
Basically, that's what we've been treating it. I've got $10 million in there on 110 separate escrows that we're tracking, not just landscape improvements, but all types of improvements.
We've made some money on that this last year or two then.
Yeah.
Yeah, unless you consider what it costs to do the chip seal on the road now that, they did it
Yeah.
20 years ago and now we're finally getting around to doing it.
Well, that's true.
So it sounds like policy wise, we'll wait until someone asks for it to be released. If they're not in default, we can tell them, come in and amend the contract. If they are in default, we could still have them come in and amend the contract, it sounds like.
When do they go into default? What's a period of time?
It's usually 6 years.
6 years?
It's 2 years.
2 years.
We just told for
Oh.
2 years.
Okay,
Depends on what the contract said. The improvements contract said. Some of the contracts were very unclear about when expiration or when default was. The ordinance that you'll be seeing in a few weeks from now, it's clearly says anything after 2 years is automatically in default unless the county grants an extension.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
we're gonna change that.
2 years.
2 years now. But some contracts we have now are not clear.
Yeah, I think, Chad.
Okay, interesting,
Uh-huh.
interesting.
So I'm thinking,
We learn as we go, right?
Would it been nice if the state code was in place a long time ago?
Right?
Yeah. You know, some things they do down there are a little slow, or
You guys, is that everything you think we need?
Yeah.
To run with it? Okay.
so does that give you what you need to know?
Yep.
Okay. So how many do we have that are not in default, but haven't performed?
I think you have, well, there's a lot more that are, Scott can probably tell you that, but right now with the landscaping issues that we have, there's 9 of them that are in default, right?
9 that are in default. Okay.
You know how many have that are not in default?
I have to ask that out.
I don't. The problem is I track the escrows not by type of escrow, but by subdivision. So I'll have one subdivision and it has amounts for the road and for the landscaping and for it, so I don't know breakout.
New subdivisions of private improvements, I don't know that we have any that are not in default.
Right,
On the private side.
Yeah, because it kind of happens pretty rarely,
right.
maybe a handful at most.
Okay.
But-
All right,
Okay, thank you.
thanks for coming up.
Commissioners.
our other appointment's out there waiting. They're here early.
Oh, perfect. Then let's get going. 2:50, we're ahead of schedule.
Right.
Boy, Gage,
We're ahead of schedule.
there no grass grow under your feet.
No, we're gonna move.
Thanks, Tom.
I got one from the government too.
We got our next ones there? I'm going Thursday.
Okay, that was it.
Where's that gonna be, Chris?
Down towards Sandy, I think.
I put the address, it's at Home to Suites Hilton or something like that,
Oh, great, okay.
so.
How many people go to that, Gage? How many people's on that you said?
Well, you've got all your
11 or
cowboys.
12.
Oh,
How, about 7 or 8?
I think they're 11 or 12. board
11 or
members.
12.
We're taking a group photo.
All right, welcome. We're here to talk about our 3 o'clock discussion regarding West Weaver development. Stephanie Russell, Pam Giuliano, Kyle Roby.
Yes.
Okay, welcome. Go ahead.
I actually have, Jim set this up, Commissioner Harvey set this up. Haven't had a chance to even meet Pam yet. So this is kind of an
Oh.
introduction meeting,
Okay.
to introduce, Pam to us and us to Pam.
Okay.
We're here to learn.
Yeah.
Here we are to learn. So let me give you a little bit of background. When Commissioner Harvey and I met the very first time, it was actually up at the Capitol. And I represented Salt Lake Garfield Western, that's now Patriot Rail. And I had just come from Congressman,
Patriot.
yes. And I had just come from Congressman Matheson's office. He retired, decided he wasn't gonna run, so I was getting phone calls about infrastructure. And so I worked on a couple of bits of legislation, one being the ability to create a public-private partnership. And that allowed Salt Lake Garfield to go for a federal grant, and we secured about 14 million out of a $25 million request. And then I had also worked on the public-private partnership that created the anaerobic digester in South Davis County. And where it took commercial waste and put it into a digester, and now puts about 14% of the natural gas that's in Dominion is created from waste. So we were up at the Hill about the same time, and we were talking about the fact that you guys were trying to get an industrial park that had a connection beyond just a rail spur, but maybe to broaden that industrial park out. But it didn't seem like we had definitely, the conversation sounded like there was support, but maybe still needed more support.
We need more information, I think, don't we?
Yeah, so flash forward. And Kyle and I are working on a project in southern Utah County, the Tinnick branch. It's a rehabilitation project. The line is an existing line. It had been vandalized about 2015, and it has sat idle. The last time they actually used it was 2007, something like that. And they ran pipe on flatbeds it was for the Kermit project. So they really hadn't utilized that. So we went to the legislature and said, we know that you're looking at wanting to be able to serve a light industrial and manufacturing regions and industries and develop a business model around that. What if we take a look at this and see if this makes sense to then build out? If it does, then we can go for federal dollars, and Rio Grande Pacific can manage that. So who's Rio Grande Pacific? We're a short line railroad. It's family owned for 40 plus years. We have operations for both short line rail and services, including engineering, IT, the safety and signaling in 8 different states. And our office is based in Lehigh. Our tracks engineering office is based in Lehigh, and then I live in Helper, so we have another office there too. So we're railroad. We're railroad. I married into a Denver and Rio Grande family. So, so we understand railroads a little bit, but when I was providing an update to Senator Buxton, I said, let's get something scheduled. I'll come in and I'll bring our engineer with us, who's now the president of Tracks Engineering, that has some really bright ideas. He's been managing, he's the project manager of the tracks or the Tinnick project. And he said, have you guys visited with Weber County lately? And I said, no, and I know about this, but I thought it was kind of on a back burner for a while. And I said, it's actually an interesting and important project that they're working on, so might be worth a conversation with the county. So I reached out, I still had your number, reached out and said, you're not gonna remember me, because I
I
can't
usually
remember
star people
yesterday.
for life. I'm glad you kept my number.
No, it was good. You know, I'll tell you what was most memorable about this. We used to be able to have lunch in the Senate building. Remember when it was open and had the cafeteria? And the Treasurer Damshin was there. And we were standing there, and I forget who the Tooele commissioner is that comes in with.
Sean Milne.
Yeah, there you go. That was it. And we were talking about, the conversation started with the landfill. And how are we gonna be able to address this? And how are we gonna get industrial? And he said, boy, I wish you I don't have an answer, but I wish you every luck with this, because we need something. We need something that's not in Salt Lake County. And that was his word of advice, and he walked away. And then Treasurer had a comment and he walked away, and so it was just you and I left talking. So there you go.
I'm not, so there you go.
You didn't walk away, did you?
No, you
I was
were,
polite.
you were very polite. There were some challenges, and you didn't, you handled it politically correct. So anyway. So, Kyle has a map. It might be a good idea to get a little background on who he is, and we'll
Okay.
talk a little bit about what you're interested in and what you're looking at doing.
Really quickly, I started my career designing FrontRunner, the FrontRunner South project, and the Draper extension and the airport tracks extension for the light rail for UTA, and then I've worked on freight railroads ever since then. So I've lived in Omaha, I've lived in Jacksonville, Toronto, major railroad hubs, and I've worked with every class 1 railroad in North America. So that's my experience, that's my background, freight railroads and transit. So haven't done anything since. I graduated from BYU in civil engineering, and that's me. That's my background. So
Great.
with that said, I've got a little bit of a map. It's not very detailed, but so Stephanie, is this kind of the area that you might be looking at? So brilliant area, and the reason why I'll say that is because it's BNSF and UP right here, and it ends right there basically.
Yeah.
Right in that area. But the reason why you want that is you want to tie into this line so that you've got competition between UP and BNSF. That's critical.
That makes sense.
So you want to be able to have the option to either tell UP or BNSF, hey, they're telling me this is the price, what can you do for me? And then you can get the best price. Otherwise, they're gonna gouge you. We actually have been working with some people over just across here, the road on the island here. And their problem is that this line, this red line, that's UP only.
Yeah.
And they can't get good rates from UP.
Yeah.
And UP's forcing them to build this huge, massive rail service terminal for themselves because they want this gold-plated thing. But it's because UP can dictate whatever they want because it's only for UP. Now, if you've got BNSF involved, you build what you need and you tell them, this is what we need. We don't need to build this huge thing. We can just build it exactly, in phases or whatever you want to do. So there's lots more options that way. So I think this is a great area. And then these customers that are over here right now, they would be very interested probably in bringing stuff over and putting it on the rail there too. So.
Well, they use the existing spur line. You know, they got a spur there now.
Right.
Yeah. But they're served by one class 1. And so to have that dual service of being dual served by 2 class 1s, like Kyle said, offers some competition, but it also offers some options too. And if that is your goal to build that out, and if refresh my memory, you wanted a dedicated industrial line. If you were still like at the industrial park, that it would serve multiple businesses. That's what I'm remembering, but that's been, like I said, 7 years ago, 8 years ago.
I don't know that I can.
Well,
speak to that.
so you're not with Patriot Rail.
No,
So we've had proposals from Patriot.
Was it Utah Central too?
Yeah, we've had 2 or 3
Utah Central, okay,
over the past number of years. So
okay.
So the 5,000 acres you're looking at right now.
Yeah,
We had a master plan basically with the owner at that time. Unfortunately, he died about a year ago.
oh.
So now it's in family hands. And at the end of the day, you know, we're not, as far as the county's perspective, we're not gonna put any money into rail line. That's gonna be, and as of this morning, you'll be possibly working with
Inland Port.
Inland Port, along with the owners. But until the owners come up, they've been very much opposed to any type of master plan out there designating. Now, maybe the Inland Port can change that, but to go out there and say, look, we want rail line here, here, and here, it's not gonna happen, because
Yeah.
we don't know whether it's gonna be, I mean, we've had inquiries from companies from 20 acres to 1,000 acres. So where do you place rail?
Yeah.
You only place rail after you know who you're gonna serve, and if they, a lot of the clients we talked to didn't need rail.
Yeah.
So it's way, I guess I'd just say it's way premature for us to try to say, okay, we want rail here or there.
Yeah.
You know, it's gonna happen when it happens.
So are you in the process then of identifying an industrial park setting?
We've got, actually, we've got a map that identified, I'll call it a rough,
Yeah.
it was called,
Concept.
it was kind of a vision, but no park, no.
Okay.
Again,
Okay.
we've dealt with companies from Japan to, you know, back.
Jakarta.
So Kyle can speak to this a little bit more in depth than I can, but if you do have a designated industrial park, you can have a dedicated industrial line that can serve the customer base that's in that park, or is it still, which makes permitting a heck of a lot easier.
Right, when it's just an industrial line spur off of an existing track like that, it does make things a lot easier.
Okay,
Yeah.
so,
When it's more of a dedicated line, that's when it becomes more complicated.
okay.
Yeah.
So that's more of a common carrier.
That's right. So if it was a common carrier, that becomes a whole nother issue. But this would just be in my mind, just an industrial spur type of situation.
And just for my own clarification, that would be easier. Well, I mean, permitting's a nightmare no matter what, when you're with the federal government, but as an industrial line serving an industrial park.
Right.
Is it a line or a spur?
It's a spur
Spur,
is
okay.
what I would propose to
Yeah.
do would be a spur line.
Okay,
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay. And then those businesses that you don't know about can use just that line, that dedicated spur.
It becomes a lot easier to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right,
That's correct.
okay. But you're dealing with family now, huh?
I'm not, but somebody, you know, in order to make any decisions out there, somebody will be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so
And
it's,
then we do have a pending possibility of a partnership with Inland Port, and they would, for the most
Right.
part, kind of take over that.
Yeah.
The logistics elements of this area. And these properties, like this property right here is south of the rail line, that
Mhm.
would be in the Inland Port. And some of these other northern properties too, so that would be, you know, as we're all working together to do business recruitment, it's like Gage said, it would be one project at a time.
sure,
And that's kind of how we've approached it
okay,
from the very beginning,
okay,
like, and adding spurs more so than a dedicated line that would,
Right.
yeah,
a dedicated industrial line, because we really don't know what's coming out there yet. We're still in the process of putting in water and sewer.
that's really important too.
Yes.
That infrastructure's not,
So that's
Not
kind
easy.
of where we're at with this.
But we're in process.
yeah,
I think we're in process.
okay, that's good. And your power, what about power?
So there's power, there's gas and
Gas.
natural gas, but there's not substations. So anyone
Okay.
that comes in will have to deal with their own substation.
And
at
that's,
that
is it
point.
Rocky Mountain Power, or is it a
Mhm.
UAMPS?
It's
type?
Rocky Mountain. So yeah, we kind of deal with this. We have a general plan for that area that the
Mhm.
commission adopted about a year ago, a little over, actually about 18 months ago. And it deals with the zoning and kind of the form-based codes out there and what we'd like to see and what it would look like. But as it relates to each property owner, they're gonna have the final say on what goes
Yeah.
onto their property.
Yeah,
So the county's just in the position of setting up the foundation for them to build off of. And with our partnerships, we've got a partnership with Northern Utah Economic Alliance. They help with business,
good.
they help with recruitment.
Yeah,
And then we also potentially have one with Inland Port, which would also help with the logistics and the recruitment piece too. So we're really in the infant stages
okay,
of. I would say that something like a spur would come project by project. Not necessarily something we'd put in as infrastructure.
okay, gotcha.
No.
So, oh, go ahead.
Let me just say one thing. As this is a joint BNSF Union Pacific
Mhm.
line, it is still primarily, it is owned by UP. It's just
Right.
they have shared trackage rights for BNSF on that line.
Mhm.
You do have to work with UP, and to get a spur built, they're telling me right now it's about a year to a year and a half process.
Mhm.
So just so you know, that's how long it will take to get through their complicated review process that they've set up for you. So it is a bit, and we understand that very well, that to get through that process, but it's just about a year and a half to get through it so
Okay.
that you can start construction.
out here too.
Does your company
Did we?
build the
Joint line
spurs? Is
too,
that
yeah,
what
yeah,
you guys
right where
do
the
or
concert
what?
We design them, and then we can help with the operations, we can
We can help with the operations and management, we can,
and the
if,
design of it.
and the
Okay.
design and the engineering of it.
Okay.
And
that's good to
the
know.
permitting.
Yeah,
Okay.
So why
Yeah.
wouldn't we use our existing spur? We got the existing spur that already serves over to GSL, well now Compass.
So you're talking about
The Patriot line?
this line up here, this spur?
Yeah.
Is that the one you're
is
talking
that
about?
Patriot that manages it?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the reason is if you had manufacturing or something happening here, you'd want a direct spur to come in here
We
to
have-
this
Off of
area,
that UP line.
right off that line.
Right,
Yeah,
That's all I'm saying.
okay, but again, there's very little dirt south of, where's 12th Street?
Just right above this
Yeah, so
line.
12th Street's here, so that line is real close to 12th Street. 95 or more % of the development is taking place over here. You've got like
Yeah.
180 to 100 acres here.
Mhm.
So we actually looked at bringing a spur off here. We had a Japanese company that was gonna take this and
Mhm.
put right here. But you gotta have, the long-term approach, you have to serve this. We actually talked with Patriot about bringing spurs off of that line.
mhm.
So, it makes no sense to bring, when we looked at the cost for the Japanese company, for them to bring a spur off there,
Yeah,
made no sense for 80 acres, when you've got 4,800 acres
yeah,
to the north,
completely,
To the north.
to the north.
absolutely,
North of 12th, when I say north of 12th Street.
yeah.
And that right now is kind of in a state of limbo, because of the passing of the landowner.
So that is, if I'm understanding you right, it's held privately, it's not county.
No,
Correct.
it's private.
Actually, the county doesn't have any property in this area at all.
Okay,
We just, it's unincorporated, so we put the general plan in place and we're assisting with utilities. Just the baseline utilities
Okay.
and.
Yeah, this is not county dirt, this is
Yeah.
not,
Mhm.
so
Okay.
everything we're gonna
Okay.
do depends on the
that's helpful
property.
to know, yeah.
Yeah,
This depends on the
it's
property
all
owner.
private property owners.
The
So I
person that
can
you
see
should
what
probably be
Inland
working
did.
with is Chris Royball with Northern Utah Economic Alliance.
Mhm.
He's probably the one that's most familiar with this.
That's a really good, group of
Mhm.
people too.
Yeah.
Okay, so, I can see what, so the county are gonna be working with Inland Port or the private entity will be
Well-
working with Inland Port?
Remains
Yet
to be seen.
determined.
Yeah, to be
We
determined.
will have input with the inland port.
Yeah.
So the way I look at this, there'll be recommendations possibly coming from Northern Utah Economic Alliance. Chris Roybal and his group
Yeah.
are
Mhm.
still
Yeah.
working for us. They're working for Davis County. The inland port will come in with their recommendations.
Yeah.
So actually, the way I see it, there's gonna be two groups that could bring potential tenants to us to approve. But we're not, all we'll do is approve the business and then,
The business license and the.
Yeah.
well, and plans and engineering
Gotcha.
and all that good stuff.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I can see why Inland Port is interested. They're looking at the inventory of land and space that's
Exactly,
attractive for
absolutely.
development.
Yeah,
And they
Absolutely.
also put together plans that help motivate or incentivize logistics
Yeah.
to build there. That makes sense.
Yeah,
One
absolutely.
of the things that I would want to follow up on or would suggest following up on is if it is a port, permitting around,
The permitting will be a challenge
if it's listed as a
if
port.
it's a port, yeah.
Okay,
Permitting with the railroad?
No, permitting for the land.
for the land, if it's listed
It-
as a port.
A lot of the land around here has, well, this piece is specifically, but other pieces too are in wetland type designated areas.
Yeah.
And so you hold on.
The port just adopted a brand new wetlands policy. It's on their website.
Okay,
So yeah, they have a whole.
on how they address
Mhm.
wetlands?
Yeah.
Okay.
And some of that, we actually got mitigated a year ago.
Yep.
Mhm.
Oh,
That's what I
good.
was saying.
Yeah,
Oh,
we've had,
okay.
we've had,
Through Army Corps?
yeah, we've had
Okay.
about 200 acres delineated.
That's a huge hurdle that you've accomplished.
Done.
Nice.
Wait, you,
And so do you
You've
have a final
delineated it?
decision from them?
Yeah, it was clear.
They've got a.
And
Okay.
the property owner on the
When
south,
was your rod done? Sorry, when was that completed? Was it
before
before
I got
June?
here, it was
Yeah, it's more than a year,
it's
maybe.
2021.
Well, it was probably 2022 when we got our final decision from the court.
Okay.
Okay.
It took about 9 months, but we actually had to expedite it. Yeah, through the court.
Okay,
Um,
good.
this 1,000 acres on the south side that you have marked, the landowner is going through delineation right now.
oh, okay.
Okay,
So this part's been mitigated, this part's
No,
being delineated.
200 acres, this 200 acres
Yeah.
right here has been delineated right here,
Yeah,
this and
It's
this,
being
and
worked
that, and nothing above that has.
but, okay, I'm just saying there's a portion that's been mitigated though as well, is what I heard.
Mm-mm.
Oh, no,
It's
just delineated.
Delineated,
Delineated.
not
Okay.
mitigated,
Okay.
delineated.
Delineated is different than
Right.
mitigated, but I get that, okay,
Yeah, it's just
Thank you.
delineated.
thank you.
well, two things. I'm excited to hear that this is a conversation again, whether you own the land or you don't. I think it's a worthwhile conversation because there's really nowhere to grow along the Wasatch Front. We're looking at the north and south end of the Wasatch Front for where development can happen. And I don't think we have the complicated political persona that we see in Salt Lake County with some of these challenges of developing, in certain areas in Salt Lake and in the county, that you won't see that degree of attention in Weber or Southern Utah County. I mean, eventually it will draw attention from the folks that are not crazy about seeing development, but that's what our state thrives on. We've got to have business or we don't have those tax revenues and we can't
You're
keep our
exactly-
cities functioning.
Exactly right.
Yep.
So.
Yeah,
so
and
it's good to
transportation is a
know.
big component of that.
Yeah.
It's just that we don't really know what we want to be when we grow up yet.
Well,
We're getting there.
when I talked to Senator Buxton and he said it's a timely conversation because they're just
Sure.
in the initial stages.
Mhm.
And, knowing that you've been working with Patriot on this spur, that's a good thing too. If you're looking for service in this other area, that would be just to be able to say to the companies that are looking at coming in, we think we can have it engineered to work with you. Not that you're taking on the responsibility of paying for that company's infrastructure, but as a county to have a say with the state legislature to say, look, we want to be able to take a broader look at this to understand what we're able to do. And if you're approaching the state legislature for that kind of a conversation and to have an engineering plan put together, I think that's why we came to mind, because President Adams and Senator Buxton have dealt with us for a few years now and understand what we can help you understand too. So With that, I don't know if there are any other questions or comments, but you've helped clear some things up in my mind because I was not clear if this was gonna be private or public or both but you're still developing that conversation, so.
Well, it'll be private. I mean, there's no question it'll be private. Now, does that mean that the we may be involved with a project or two out there depending on what
Yeah.
takes place, but yeah,
But
the bus will be driven by the private enterprise.
Yes.
We're not taking the lead.
Yeah. Well, you know what? In private industry, government shouldn't take a
Yeah,
lead.
no, it's not our job.
No, it's a competitive market.
Yeah.
So,
But we also want to make sure that the development happens very wisely.
Yeah,
yeah,
And that's why we put the Western General
yeah, yeah,
Plan into place so that we know what, we have an overall vision for that area. And it's really unique and it's form-based and it was done with a lot of care and thought. So it does detail the types of zoning and what we would consider allowable uses for the
That's
land.
good.
So it's a land use policy more than anything, but it will set the stage for all of our partners and the property owners are very much aware this is what is gonna be allowed out there. So
Mhm.
not to bring in things that the county would not consider smart development,
Right.
that would be,
Right.
have long-term devastation on the area.
Yeah. Well, I do think, like Kyle said, if you are looking at development there and you do have dual service, I think you're gonna have.
Mhm.
I think
Makes
you'll
sense.
have.
That's
client
really good
base there.
information to know. I
Yeah.
actually didn't know that.
You're
We've only
gonna
been
have
dealing with
companies
UP
wanting
out
to
there.
do- Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I didn't know. That's really, and that's good to know where where the terminus is on
It's
that.
just right there.
Mhm.
That's interesting. I
Yeah.
was
Mhm.
completely
I've
unaware of
heard
that.
that, I just,
Yeah, that's really
Yeah.
great information to know.
You're in the right spot. And I
You're in
think
the right
when you and
spot,
I
yeah.
talked about it, there was a question as to, cause I knew it was west of Legacy. I couldn't remember how far west. But, just the ability to be able to say that you're developing an area that will be dual served makes you that much more attractive to
Yes.
businesses.
Yeah.
more valuable.
And I would
Exact-
encourage you guys to
exactly.
reach out to Chris Robel at Northern Utah Economic Alliance, cause
I would
he does
like
all of our
to.
marketing and that would be
Okay.
something that we'd wanna add to our marketing.
That's got all his contact.
Well, we'll pass our business cards around, so
Okay.
you can, our address, my address, I don't know what yours says, but mine's in
No,
Texas.
mine's there.
Okay, I'm in Helper, and I drive the canyon 3 times a week, every week, so it's not like
Wow.
it's a problem for me to get up here, it's what I do, so. But I would like to meet with Chris, and I would like to offer to stay in touch. If you are looking at needing help or support at the legislature to try to get through, just to be able to determine what you're looking at in the long run, let me know, I'm happy to go with you and have those conversations, but the dual service is gonna be important. I think Inland Port Authority has some incentives they can offer. What I don't know, and I've been sitting here thinking about this, what your population looks like in that area, cause I haven't been out there for a while, but it's still under 15-ish, isn't it? 1,000?
Oh, easy, yeah.
Okay.
It's
It's
phenomenal.
about 15,000 out there, Gage,
Yeah,
depends on where you
it's-
put the line.
Depending on where you
Yeah.
draw it.
Okay,
in
so-
this-
You might have 2,000 west of
Mhm.
6,700.
Yeah, so that's what I'm
Maybe.
remembering.
Maybe.
That's what I'm remembering.
It's
too.
farmland.
And
Yeah.
if you still have that, remind me, what's your mileage to Salt Lake City from here? 38, 39, 40?
Yeah, it's about 40.
Okay, so you might still fit in the rural community demographics. You've got the right population with the mileage.
We've tried,
Ogden
it
City-
depends on who you're dealing with,
Yeah.
but honestly,
Ogden City won't, but that community might.
sometimes, and we get shot down more often than,
With USDA?
with everybody
Really?
for that matter, yeah. They can, cause
Yeah, they look at
we're a
the
tier
entire
two.
western Weber
They
County.
they consider,
you are a
we're a
tier
tier
two?
2, so we just don't,
That's a challenge.
yeah, we just don't qualify for rural.
No.
Yeah, although our demographic says we do,
Absolutely.
but because of our labeling.
And so SBA and USDA,
DA,
I think there's, I'll bet you, where does your population, show me from where you're building out industrial wise, where's, I know we're still farmland.
So if you go here, this is 8,300, so about 79 is where most of the farmland starts and the houses stop,
Okay,
so.
79, I know where that's at. Okay. You might be able to do it with USDA. I don't know about SBA, but I'm gonna call, I've got a DC buddy that,
Okay.
and see if you're eligible. How far north does it go?
It kind of just follows this rail spur, to be honest with you,
Okay,
where the unincorporated ends.
okay. So you're unincorporated up to the top of that?
Mhm.
I'm gonna ask my Chris.
Okay.
What he knows about that, because
Sure.
we've actually seen in some communities where you can still be eligible for small business development under USDA,
Okay,
and it's a regional pocket.
okay,
It's under 15,000, and I think you have to be 40 miles from your metropolitan area. Ogden's big enough now that it could
I'd
be.
just say Ogden might qualify as.
What's the
metro.
population here?
We're Ogden.
Or the whole county.
No, the Ogden.
I actually don't
80
know.
85 to 90.
Yeah.
You're not over 100.
No, well, no,
Mm,
we're under 90.
yeah,
I think you might. I think you might have some. I don't want to get anybody's hopes up, so let me talk to him, but I think you might have some areas that are eligible. And then, the other thought with that too is if you're doing an intermodal connection
mhm,
and you can fit the demographic of light industrial manufacturing, rural community and ag, and you're taking, traffic off one particular road for the purpose of safety and improved roadways to minimize your impacts, that's another qualifier.
okay,
So I need to make a note here.
that's a possibility.
Yeah. Let me-
So while Pamela, you make that note, if you all have any questions on the railroad side of things, like railroad history, engineering, that sort of thing, feel free to reach out to me too.
Okay,
That'd be great.
Great.
Appreciate it.
yeah.
I'll give you my
Thank you.
card
That'd be
here.
great, Kyle.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Here we go.
You got that.
Roll.
Hey, we appreciate you coming in.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Thank you.
I was, when Senator Buxton said you guys were working on this, is like, really? Okay, I go back a ways with this, so this is nice.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's just,
told you that?
No.
there you go. Here, I'm gonna snag one more and pass it on down. Thanks. And that's my cell number, so
Okay.
don't hesitate, but text me first, because I'm usually driving.
Sounds like it.
I do.
Yeah, we don't need you crashing.
No, no, no. All right, well,
Thank you.
pleasure to see you. Nice to meet you.
Nice to
Very
meet-
nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you,
You bet.
appreciate it. It's
You
very
bet.
informative.
All right, I think that
Just
concludes
like
our
that.
agenda. Unless there's further business to be addressed at this point in time. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye, let's go.
Thank you.
See ya.